All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I'm excited to do weekdays with SwipaCam on Pickaxe and Roll. We're excited for this one. Wanted to join in middle of the week just because not a ton to talk about, I think, just nationally, and then not a lot to talk about Nuggets-wise, because that's what happens when you play on Monday and then you play on Friday. So excited to be able to chat a little bit about Game 3. We'll go over some other topics as well, but Swipa, just let's check in. How you doing, man? How you feeling about the series so far?
Yeah, it's been a really good series. Feeling really good. It's been an interesting week. I definitely want to lift up Serbia and Belgrade. I know they're obviously going through a really difficult time right now, and obviously, Serbia is a big family for us, and we care very deeply about you all. So obviously, we are definitely here for you, and we appreciate you all. But it's been a really good week. Other than that, I'm just really excited to see what happens in Game 3. I have a lot of takes to get off, so I think it's going to be really good.
My mentions are going to be crazy, and then just everything about what I fire off. I can't wait for people to see the fireworks. But again, hey, Serbia, we feel for you. We love you. We've been in this together with you for all this time, and it's just really sad what's going on in Belgrade right now. So hopefully they just continue to get better, and was really happy to see what Luka Doncic did today. Was not happy to see the Philadelphia fans that are like, why is Nikola Jokić not doing this? And honestly, he probably is, and he probably just didn't make it public. But it's very like everybody just have compassion in your heart for what's going on in Serbia. But let's move through here now. We've got a couple things we want to talk about on this particular episode of Weekdays with SwipaCam. The first thing that I want to discuss, just kind of a little bit differently, the Nuggets, they've been unbelievable so far. They've been great. To me, they've absolutely met expectations, potentially exceeded expectations. But for a lot of people, I think they were some people thought, hey, you're the one seed. This is what you're supposed to do. And some people thought, hey, we don't believe in you at all. We think you're going to get whooped by Phoenix. So which is it, Swipa? Which is it? Like, did the Nuggets, have they met or exceeded expectations so far?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I think this whole narrative shift has been really interesting to watch, Ryan. And the Nuggets come into the playoffs, and people were down on them because of the last month of the season, and they went 8-10 over the last 18. Jokić fell off to averaging 24, 12, and 9 for the last 18 games or whatever it was. And then, people were saying that the Timberwolves series was going to be a dogfight. They get out in 4-1, and then we hear afterwards the Nuggets were still in a dogfight with the Timberwolves. And then a majority of people, Ryan, picked the Phoenix Suns to beat the Denver Nuggets, and some said the series will end in 4 or 5 because the Nuggets can't guard their pick and roll. And yet the Nuggets have held them to a 104 offensive rating through the first 2 games of the series. And the team, they had just had a 123 offensive rating versus the Los Angeles Clippers. So the Nuggets have exceeded expectation because they have been dominant. I would say they've been the most complete team. Actually, the numbers would say they've been the most complete team in the playoffs. Ryan, by the way, do you know the Denver Nuggets currently lead the entire playoffs in net rating with the number 2 playoff offense and the number 3 playoff defense?
It's wild to think about, man. It's wild. Like that's not what people were supposed to see. That's not what the Nuggets were supposed to be in these playoffs. They were supposed to be a team that dominated on the offensive end because of their personnel, but kind of struggled on the defensive end because how are you supposed to construct a defense around Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Nikola Jokić? Is there any way that you could really do that? Well, it turns out you can if those guys are all as bought in the way that they are. And I just think that that's an exciting prospect for Denver right now, that they've been able to have the best of both worlds, despite the fact that I think in some cases they're compromised, but in most cases they just adapt. They just survive.
Yeah. Would you say that's been the most – well, let me ask you directly. What's been the most impressive thing to you about the Denver Nuggets, either as a team, the coaching, or maybe individual players?
I think it's just the completeness. I think in my mind, it is that they don't really have a lot of weaknesses right now. And I came into these playoffs assuming that they would be a little bit apathetic, assuming that they would be lax at various points, that their transition defense wouldn't be great. There's a lot of things I could point to and say, okay, that's probably something that a team is going to expose in the playoffs. Have the Nuggets been exposed yet? I'm still waiting on that. I'm still waiting for the flaw in the plan. I'm still waiting for all of that. And I haven't seen it so far. And that's what complete teams do, is they shore up their weaknesses and they don't allow you to pick at any of them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, Ryan, I've been hearing a lot, whether it be shout out to Brandon Marshall and Ashley Nicole Moss, and then a shout out to Michael Smith and Nat Fluential and others, shout out to a bunch of people having a lot of conversations about the Nuggets, ESPN, Undisputed, First Take, all that stuff. But a lot of people keep noting the Nuggets bench, and they keep noting the fact that the Suns are not getting any scoring off their bench. But Ryan, the Nuggets aren't getting a lot of scoring off their bench. What they're getting from their bench is high-level defensive versatility, high level. And maybe that's probably the most underrated aspect that a lot of people aren't talking about with the Nuggets, is that you have in KCP, Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, Bruce Brown, and Jeff Green, 5 6'4" to 6'8" wing option that are all interchangeable and that they've been playing extremely hard. Man, Christian Brown, like the level of defense that he's been playing so far in this playoff, Ryan, Kevin Durant in the matchup data per NBA.com shot 1 of 5 versus Christian Brown in game 2. 1 of 5. And then Kevin Durant versus Aaron Gordon shot 3 of 13.
It's wild.
This is exactly who we thought they could be, but they're just showing that there's just a higher level they could get to that not many other teams could get to defensively.
I think that's of course it's wild. Of course it's something that they didn't really show for extended periods of time in the regular season. I think that if you were a skeptic of the Denver Nuggets defense, you had good reason to be. That, hey, they're not super proven. A lot of the pieces that they have that come off their bench, they won't play as many minutes during the playoffs. And because of that, you're going to have these offensively compromised lineups. And so I'm not surprised that people had a little bit of concern there. But I just think that everybody's raised their levels. Everybody's raised their level of physicality, of aggression, of focus. Nobody's missing contests. Nobody's missing closeouts. Nobody's missing box outs. Like, these things are important in a playoff context. And Denver, for all of the things that I think people had a little bit of concern about during the regular season, they just put those to bed because of effort and because of focus. And so I do think that this defense is for real, and I don't know whether they're going to be exposed at various points. Like, I think that a dynamic attack featuring potentially like 2 elite pick and roll players at the same time could be a little bit different, but there's a lot to ask there. It's like, because not a lot of teams have that. A lot of teams have an elite guy and a really good guy that they pair together. A lot of teams just have good guys. So yeah, it's interesting to think about.
And I'll say this, I wanted to actually note this, Ryan. I haven't talked about this on Twitter yet, but I'm going to. The Denver Nuggets main bench lineup. Can you name it off the top of your head? Let me say Denver Nuggets non-Jokić bench lineup.
I can. It's generally Jamal Murray, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Jeff Green, and Aaron Gordon. That's generally the group that they use. Okay.
So that has 26 minutes together, which for the relatives in the 7-game sample size is pretty good. Again, whatever. Can you just give me a guess what you think the offensive and defensive rating for that lineup is?
Man, offensive rating, like it definitely doesn't feel like they've been scoring as much just with the non-Jokić minutes. So I'd probably guess about a 105 offensive rating, but they've been positive, I know. So we'll say 105 offensive rating, 100 defensive rating.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, Ryan, again, the statistician analyst himself, they actually have a 111 offensive rating. And I think you actually gave them a little too much credit defensively. They have a 92.3 defensive rating.
That's fun.
Which is
fun.
A plus 19 net rating. That's Ryan, amazing. They are absolutely obliterating people defensively. And because what I love is that all year people were clamoring for Aaron Gordon at center. Who knew that when Aaron Gordon was at center, they would run and become the 2004 Detroit Pistons?
Who knew? Who knew? That's just, it's the mentality you have to have. But I think the versatility of those three guys that are kind of the defensive pillars in that group, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, and Aaron Gordon, it's such a big deal. Like, you can put Christian Brown on Kevin Durant and not feel like you have to send help all the time. Now, they will sometimes, but sometimes they're just going to let him go one-on-one. And if you force a mid-range two, then that's fine. It's just don't foul. And I think Denver's done such a great job without fouling in a lot of those combinations. And that's been great to see that they're not giving up the easy stuff. They're not giving up the threes. They're not giving up the free throws. They're not giving up the layups. Like, it has all been the hard stuff. And so that's the most important thing you can do on a team like Phoenix, is just make it difficult.
Yeah, I think I just, Ben Taylor put a video out today, Ryan. Not sure if you got a chance to see it yet.
I watched it and I loved it.
Right. I love the fact of how he was explaining why they've been so good. Ryan, those X-outs, the rotations, everything, they have just been so good. And, Ryan, we saw this early December, remember, middle December maybe, when they first beat the Memphis Grizzlies 105-91. Remember, they started going on that tear, and the defense was like, this is for real. They're turning up. And then they had the Celtics game where they think 123-111 was the final score, and then they kept winning and winning and winning. But Ryan, man, I think I can't give enough credit to Coach Michael Malone for how he's got these dudes locked in. And the funny thing is, Ryan, a lot of people, when they talk about the Denver Nugget defense, they're like, well, they were only like the 14th or 15th ranked defense in the regular season. So, surely they're not that good in the playoff. But if you actually look at it, Ryan, again, since December, they basically have been like the 7th ranked defense in the NBA. And then they just went another level up in the playoffs. And now you're just like, Kevin Durant has to deal with, and Devin Booker, KCP, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, and then Aaron, and then Jeff. And then if you get a good matchup, you get Jamal Murray and you get Michael Porter Jr. And both of them, for the most part, have been very good defensively.
Been decent, man. Like, it's so important for Denver to not have weaknesses. And I think that the people that thought that Denver had weaknesses were looking at Jokić. They were looking at Murray. They were looking at Porter. What they weren't really looking at is that those guys in different moments have strengths, and like, they'll have some of those weaknesses picked apart. Like, I think that Porter, sometimes he'll get caught out of position. He will not cut off the right angle, things like that. But with Murray, sometimes he'll not provide that extra effort on like a box out or like a closeout or something like that. Or he might space a little bit, might be a little late. And for Jokić, it's just the foot speed. Like, everything else, he's actually really good. But I just don't think that people really incorporated the fact that, look, you got to get through, like you said, all those first, second, and third lines of defense in order to get to the weaknesses. And Denver's just done such a great job of defending even when it feels like they should be compromised.
And again, we asked for Jokić to play high-level defense, and Jokić has played high-level defense. He's been very good with his positioning, very good with his footwork, very good when coming up to the level. And even in drop coverage, which they rarely do, for Cameron Payne and CP3, he's been fine. Like, again, you got to scheme how you scheme, but, he's let Devin Booker get around him, I think maybe twice, in the first 2 games. But really, outside of that, he's been really good. And this is not speaking to the fact, Ryan, that on the other end, Jokić is averaging 31.5, 17.5, and 5, versus so.
Decent right there.
Right, exactly. So it's been really good. I think that the Denver Nuggets defense is for real, because they have never in the Michael Malone era had the level of defensive proficiency at the key positions they need. And Aaron Gordon has looked every bit like the player they were hoping to get on March 25th, 2021. He's been even better defensively than I think he's been ever in his Nuggets career.
He's been unbelievable. And I think that he has an all defensive ceiling. This is stuff that we talked about and what he could raise his game during the regular season for. Now, it takes a lot of effort to do that. And I think that he did bring it in some matchups. Like, there's no doubt about it that in various matchups he did bring it, but sometimes it's just hard to manufacture that urgency that you have to have when guarding Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in the playoffs. Like sometimes you're just not going to have that in the regular season, and that's okay. But I'm just very impressed with Aaron Gordon, as you mentioned. KCP has been unbelievable. Bruce Brown has been unbelievable too. Christian Brown might be the best defender of all of them. It's sick. It is sick what Calvin Booth has done, and just how great Denver has turned themselves into. Let me ask you this before we hit a break here. I can sense, especially after Joel Embiid received the MVP, and especially after kind of the voting came out, that there's been a lot of people like, we really gave Joel Embiid the MVP, despite the fact that statistically it was clear that he wasn't the most deserving candidate. And now we're kind of seeing what that looks like in the playoffs, where, oh yeah, Denver, they were just injured, I guess. And Joel Embiid still, like, he's still injured too. And I don't want to take that away from him. Like he's come back early from this injury and looks like he's come back early from an injury. And that sucks. It's unfortunate that that's gotten to that. But I think we see a lot of these narratives around Jokić and the Nuggets shifting a little bit. I think we can sense that. And then are they actually shifting, or is that just me kind of having some wishful thinking here?
So the other day, as you probably saw on my Twitter, Nick Wright came out on a game right after Jokić had 39, 16, 5 with 1 block and 2 steals and was a +2 shot, 17 to 30, right? Yeah. 15 to 24 from 2, right? 2 of 6 from 3. 18 points in the third quarter. Sombor shuffled in the third quarter, right? Who remembers? And so Nick Wright came out that next day and basically said what Jokić did, having 39 points on the efficiency he did in a game that they scored 97 points, was similar to what Michael Jordan did in the 1998 NBA Finals when he had 45 points and they scored 87 points. And he was just talking about how impressive that was and how you have to have moments like that from the best player. That, if you know Nick Wright, was Nick Wright giving compliments to Michael Jordan and Nikola Jokić, whom he has not had a great history of association with. So the fact that even Chris Broussard, before the Suns series, said that if Jokić goes on a crazy run, a real run, he has an argument for the best player in the NBA. The fact that Stephen A. and all these other people finally see them, well, the Suns got to win game 2, and then the Nuggets play defense, hold them to 87 points. Jokić has 39, 16 and 5 after a 24, 19 and 5 performance. And people are slowly, but I think almost like a little bit faster than you would have thought, turning towards Jokić is actually one of those dogs. And also, shout out to Jason Timpson, the volume. I didn't realize this until yesterday. Nikola Jokić is currently the all-time leading scorer among centers in points per game in NBA history in the playoffs. Which I was like, wait a minute. That's right. I remember he was top 10, but he's the number 1 in points per game among all centers in NBA history. Shaq, Kareem, Hakeem. Now, granted, if you filtered it out, as they talked about, for the age 28, he will be 4th, but he will be 4th behind Kareem, Shaq, and Wilt, and Jokić. So that's what I mean. Like, and that's not even including the playmaking. That's not including the rebounding. So everyone seems to be slowly but surely being like, the Nuggets are better than we thought. They're elite. They have the JJ Redick today, Stephen A. Smith, other analysts. They might have the most complete package of any team in the NBA playoff. This is after people saying that they thought the Suns were going to beat them, a majority were going to beat them going into the second round.
That, first of all, that ESPN forecast is always hilarious because people are just like, we'll just take the favorite most of the time. But that's just hilarious. And also, shout out to Jason, who I know ranked him 7th behind Jason Tatum in his player rankings at the beginning of the season for like, hey, who do you want in the playoffs? Like, but shout out Jason. I know he does good work too. But look, you're right. Just like what I said, he's not going to be ranked 7th after this playoff run. That's for sure. Like, there's no way that anybody can see what he's doing and really dismiss it, because I mean, he's It's over Rudy Gobert, it's over DeAndre Ayton, and potentially in the next round, it's either over Draymond Green or Anthony Davis. Like, if he does rise to the occasion in those moments, and the Nuggets do rise to the occasion trying to get this done, then there's just a lot that people are going to have to answer for, and I'm very much looking forward to it. That's what drives me, man.
Ryan, I think too, how much of this now do you think can be contributed to the fact that Kevin Durant is one of the media darlings, and there's a good amount of people that think he's the best player in the world, and then when he went to the Suns, that he was going to take them as the prohibited favorite because they were the prohibited favorite coming out the West going into the playoff. How much of the narrative around Joker do you think is changing because he's doing this while being the best player in a series versus Kevin Durant?
Oh, I think there's no doubt. I think a lot of this comes down to like analytics versus hoopers in that entire conversation. And it's way more complicated than that. But if you want to boil it down to the different groups of people that back these different players, then I think that there's a lot of folks that are like, yeah, Kevin Durant's what's really going to work in the playoffs. Kevin Durant's what's really going to translate. And Denver's just got a better team, and I think that they've made that work. But it might be a little bit different if teams had to load up on Joker the way that they did on Kevin Durant. Like the Nuggets just have so many weapons and defensive guys that they can throw at KD and the coverage that they have, and the Suns just don't have that. But we did just see what happened against the T-Wolves last playoff round. Like, you've got the 3-time DPOY and Karl Anthony Towns. Like, it's doesn't get much better than that for matchups against Joker, and he just crushed it by the end.
Yeah. I think some of this is, I just think it's interesting though, Ryan. Now people are saying the Suns are undermanned. I love Mark Spears. He is one of my heroes in the game. And even he came out and has said multiple times, the Suns are winning the series because they got the pick and roll with Joker. He's going to get exposed. And now they're up 2-0. Mark Spears like, well, the Suns are undermanned. I still don't believe in the Nuggets. I'm like, Mark, but you just picked the Suns. Like, how in the world are you now switching over from now they're not the favorite because they're undermanned, and now CP3 gets hurt, and all of a sudden CP3's in the game, they win the fourth quarter. But it's like, what did he have? 8 points? So again, it's just interesting how everything molds and changes. But the Nuggets, all you have to do is to keep on winning.
I just know that if Mark Spears and Kirk Goldsberry showed up on the low post together, they would definitely pick the Clippers over the Nuggets. That's what they would definitely do. So it is what it is. We can, and the Clippers just lost to the Suns in embarrassing fashion almost. So like, actually, that's not true. That's not true. I don't want to shout out to the Clippers who fought the good fight without their stars. That's it is what it is. But
right.
It's an interesting factor here. So. Tell you what, man. Hey, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss Game 3, different adjustments, and Chris Paul's status, which was just updated before this. But first, everybody, this podcast, as you know, is brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Baseball is back. The push for postseason is here for hockey and for hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook. Superbook Sports is the best wagering app around with a direct line to experienced bookmakers in Las Vegas. Plus, get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. And we're back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Joined by my guy, Swipa, on this podcast. Swipa wearing the Swipa hat, looking spiffy. I see comments down here. That's amazing here. We got a nice compliment here for you. Let your neck breathe, brother. You like it all,
bro.
You like it all buttoned up right here?
Yeah, bro. It's the style, bro. You can say, I'm not gonna hold y'all, bro. I'm from Park Hill, Denver, Colorado. We had a lot of Mexicans in the community when I was growing up, and this is how they used to wear it. I used to always think they looked so clean. I've been wearing it like that ever since.
Hey, man, I'm with you. Like it is tight. It is fresh. Like you already know. I totally get it with you. But all right, let's now transition. Chris Paul's injury status came out just before this podcast. I think we all kind of knew where this was going, but groin injury. He is out for game 3. We do not know what his status is going to look like for game 4, but honestly, I think he's probably going to be out for game 4 as well. Just your initial thoughts on Chris Paul being out at this point. We talked about it just a little bit before, but I don't know what this is going to look like for Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, you're losing, I don't know, their second best playmaker, depending on how you have Devin Booker, wherever you want to put him, maybe the best playmaker. I think the fact that you're already depending on your top 4, more than any team in the NBA maybe, and now you're losing maybe your third best player right now in this series, which, him or Aiden. So, I think this is going to be a lot more more Wilson. I think this is going to be a lot more Cameron Payne. And I think if the Nuggets thought they were hunting matchups before, we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Chris Paul, like if like you said, if Cam Payne is the guy who they start, like you better believe that they are going to try to come after Cam Payne on those pick and rolls. They're going to try to get Murray switched onto him. They'll have Murray get into the post against him, try to get a couple of easy possessions, and whether that's when Jokić is out there or if Porter's out there, I don't know. If I were Denver, I would try to get to those spots when those guys aren't on the floor, just to see, like, not try to compromise too much. I don't think Denver changes too much because of the Chris Paul injury, because I think they were the better team before, and I think they're definitely the better team after. But most important thing for this is, like you said, not a lot of depth, no idea who they're going to start, no idea who they're going to go with. But it would not surprise me if Denver decides, we're just gonna target whoever's out there now. So we will see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think Cam Payne can have some good moments. I think the Suns are going to be looking for their shots as much as possible, especially at home with their role players.
Let's now move to the adjustments here. Phoenix, you score 87 points in game 2. You're going to try to change some things up in game 3 just to get Devin Booker free, to get Kevin Durant free, trying to make things easier for those guys. I'm not sure what the best strategy is to make things easier for those guys, though, because it feels like Denver's just loading up super heavy on whoever's touching the ball there. Is there a way that they can free up those guys a little bit more, just to try to get away from Denver's defense? But I just don't know what it looks like for this.
They're, again, as some of us said before the series, their entire offense is predicated on 50+% of their offense coming from pull-up mid-range twos from mid-range. So I don't know what the counteract for that is unless you're saying Devin Booker. I think he's going to be on ball more. So they might ask Devin to be more of a passer at times, because Josh Okogie and Cameron Payne will have opportunities to shoot it. But the thing is that, like, the Nuggets are going to funnel it towards the corners, but they're going to get there. So, like, I don't see them getting up more shots than they did. I think you're going to have more points scored from the Suns, because the Suns scored – they scored 107 in game 1, and then they scored 87 in game 2. So I think the Suns are going to score over 105 points maybe again, but their offense is so isolation dependent that I don't actually think that unless they're hitting more shots, that their offense is going to get better versus the Nuggets, who are their entire premise is getting good shot quality and setting their defense. And if the Nuggets have a set defense, then they're going to funnel you to where they want you to shoot the ball.
Part of it is just going to be, in my mind, hey, they took 31 threes, and I think they made 6 of them. Like, they're going to make more at home. I got to imagine that it's going to be a little bit better. Now, a lot of those threes were rushed. A lot of those threes were not in rhythm. I think Denver's defense deserves a lot of credit for that, of course. But it's always tough to just say, oh, yeah, like 6 of 31 from 3, that's a repeatable thing for Denver to do. It's probably going to come down to, hey, can Devin Booker and Kevin Durant make the mid-range shots that they mostly missed in game 2? I think Devin Booker was pretty good at most of the time, but KD 10 of 27, like, he's good enough that if they get 13 of 27 from him instead, which is closer to 50%, and if they get 4 more threes from their role players, maybe one of them is from KD, then that automatically is 12 extra points, which you add that to 87 and you get to 103. well, maybe that's where you're getting to. Like, there's not a high ceiling on what the Suns are what they're putting out there, really. Like, I think their floor is still super low, and the ceiling on this, like, even if you're playing guys like Landry Shamet, Damian Lee, spacing it out a little bit more, it's like, okay, you're getting up to 105, 106, 108. Like, Denver can still go for 120.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting, the narrative even around the defense in this series, because a lot of the analysts you can always tell who the expected favorite is in a series, Ryan, that if the favorite's losing, they talk about what the team that's losing is not doing, rather than what the other team is doing that's winning. And the people keep saying, well, the Suns played a good enough defense because they held the Nuggets to 97 points, without also alliterating the fact that the Suns shot 6 of 31 from 3, the Nuggets shot 7 of 27 from 3, and Jamal Murray had a worse shooting game than Kevin Durant did. Yeah. So I think all of that is going to rise back up to where the average is, if not above the average. But even still, look again, we'll make our predictions here in a little bit, man. I think if the Nuggets would stand the Phoenix Suns run through the top of the fourth quarter, I think they can close the game out, because I think the Suns are going to make shots. But because of the personnel and because of the way Nuggets in their offense, they just have the ability to outshoot you down the stretch of games.
One thing that I think really stands out, DeAndre Ayton, I think, had 14 points in game 1 and 14 points in game 2. Like, I think it was 7 of 11 in the first game and 7 of 10 in the second game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they make more of an effort to try to get him some touches? You
don't have to finish that.
Even without Chris Paul out there?
No,
Holy
they
cow.
don't run their offense through him, bro. They have not done this all year. The only time they did that is when Devin Booker was out, when he was hurt. They don't prioritize Ayton touches unless it's a reaction to what the defense is doing. They're not building that in as this is our first or second option. So I think Ayton could score more points. The problem is Ayton's points are put shots at the free throw line and either putbacks or Devin Booker holding the ball, waiting for it to clear, and then giving it to Ayton. That's just not what his role is in that Suns offense. And I don't think that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker trust him to be a scorer, like to be a scorer that's an action scorer. Like, when he gets on the post, even when he's there versus Jokić or Bruce Brown, he just doesn't have like the technical skills you would like to be able to get to his spots and get to him easy. I think he's the third best post scorer on his team.
Wow. I mean, I was just thinking, like, okay, if he has to post up Jokić, who do I like in that matchup? I definitely like Jokić in that matchup. Like, just walling him up a little bit, not letting him get to an easy jump hook. He's going to force it out a little bit farther. He's not going to give up any ground there. Like, that is a tough prospect. I think for the Suns, that, hey, you can only really count on 14 to 18 points in all likelihood from your max contract center. Like, that's tough. Like, they screwed up. I really do think that they screwed up with him. There was more that they could get out of his game, and they decided that they wanted to go through somebody else, and they decided that they wanted to go a different direction, turn him into Kevon Looney, if we're being honest. Like, that's who they wanted him to be, and it's just like, he's not that.
Yeah, not for $35 million a year. I think is what he's making on a 4-year deal. So I think, look, I like Ayton too. I think Ayton's good. I just think the way that the Suns players, the coaches, the fan base, the way they deal with him, and people are just like, Ayton has to give you more. I'm like, what do you mean give you more? When has he given you more? And people keep bringing up that 2021 run. Ryan, they played against a Lakers team with no Anthony Davis in the middle of the series. They played against a team with the Denver Nuggets with Facu Campazzo, Austin Rivers getting shredded. He was getting fed lobs and dump-offs in a pick-and-roll game. And then on the other side of that, they played in the third round. They played the Clippers with no Kawhi, and they won that in 6. And then they went to the finals, ran into Giannis off of 2 games. They got a 2-game head start because Giannis got a knee injury versus the Atlanta Hawks. And then as soon as Giannis got healthy, it was a 4 straight game march to the title. So I just don't think, man, I don't know what they want Ayton to do. Like, do you want him to play better versus Joker? What does that even look like? He's not Anthony Davis.
It's a good question. I think that they would you would think that they'd want to try to get Joker into foul trouble, right? Like, that's one thing. And if you're running plays through Ayton a little bit, like, at least he can get into the shoulder of Jokić, try to draw some fouls on offensive rebounds and putbacks and things like that. But I don't know, man. Like Joker's done a great job of defending him so far this series. He's done a great job defending in the playoffs. It's not a great matchup for Phoenix, which how funny is that to say?
Who do you think well, let me ask this. Can you rank all three of the centers the Nuggets have faced so far?
Yeah. That's why Rudy Gobert is definitely the top guy.
I think so.
Like undoubtedly the top guy. Towns started to figure some things out in the end of that series, games 4 and 5. So I think I'd probably rank him 2 and 8 and 3. But you could give me the opposite ranking, and I'd feel okay with it.
Yeah, I just think that look, man, Jokic just again, Ayton is a good defender. So people are going to act like because Jokic is scoring on him, he's not a good defender. He is a good defender. But Jokic, I'm telling you, man, this playoff series started him with the 3-time DPOY and Karl Anthony Towns. Now he's seeing Ayton. If the Nuggets are able to get past this round, he has that Draymond and AD next. I'm telling you, man, Jokic could be on a run. He could go on a run in the Western Conference.
Man, then he's going to have to face Bam Adebayo in the NBA Finals. It's going to be crazy.
Hey, talk about it. Come on, Jimmy. Come on, playoff Jimmy.
I love it, man. Ain't no way that the Philadelphia 76ers are getting past the Heat. They've got too much mental.
You think Philly's beating the Celtics?
No, I don't think. I think the Celtics are beating them, and I think the Celtics will probably beat the Heat. But who knows? Who knows at this point? We wasn't really on the docket for this, but we could talk about it. Who do you think? Who do you think comes out of the East?
I mean, it has to be the Celtics. I mean, it has to be, right? I just think I picked the Celtics. They were my second after the Bucks, and then the Bucks flamed out. But I already said this. If Jimmy Butler's healthy, he's getting by the Knicks. And Jimmy Butler is going to make that a 7-game series versus the Celtics. You better believe it because he owes them for that pull-up 3 he missed last year. And if you're telling me you got Jimmy Buckets, a.k.a. Michael Jordan 2.0 in the 2023 NBA playoff with a Game 7 on the line, give the ball to Jimmy.
Oh my God, he's unbelievable, man. Watching him in that Game 5 against Milwaukee was a spiritual experience in Kevin Durant's in his terms. So that is hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably take Boston too to come out of there, but yeah, I mean, Embiid just doesn't look good. He looks like he can't move sideways is really the problem, and that's not a surprise.
So I have an honest conversation about this. Okay, just quickly. So Embiid just won the MVP. Congratulations. Yeah. Again, sincerely, congratulations, because he is the second African-born MVP in NBA history behind Hakeem Olajuwon. That's huge, especially if you know Embiid's story. That is incredible. But Ryan, that set aside, do you think that even after this playoff run, because Embiid obviously has the LCL injury, he's averaging 18.8 points a game, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks, and I think 1 assist. I think he might have a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio right now, but he had 5 crazy blocks versus the Celtics.
Yeah.
Do you think that we're going to actually be able to get a proper assessment of Embiid, or do you think that we have to take the injury assessment as a part of Embiid's legacy, and that Embiid, whether it be performance or injury, he is just not the same player as he is in the regular season in the playoff setting because he's facing playoff defenses?
It definitely does feel like where his career is going right now is in the realm of a Penny Hardaway or Grant Hill, like one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history. What if Joel Embiid just stayed healthy for his entire career? What would that look like? That dude was unbelievable. They talk about it like Arvydas Sabonis as this mythological figure in international hoops, where you never really got to see him at the peak of his powers, but there was always this vision of what it would look like. I think that's kind of where we're getting with it. I don't see it really manifesting, but there's still time in Embiid's career for that to change. But it does feel like, man, it's every year, every second round, we're thinking about Embiid, can he actually get through this playoff run healthy? And he's been snake bitten in that, just has not been able to survive it. And I mean, I'm not one of those guys that's all about best ability is availability, because I think it undercuts the actual talent level for both of those guys. But if at some point it's just a it's just a fact at this point that Joker shows up in the playoffs and has been really, really good almost every single time. And Embiid shows up in the playoffs and he has yet to provide that dominant playoff run that I think a lot of people have been seeking out with them. So it's too bad, man. But I don't see it coming with him.
Yeah, and I also want to say this because somebody asked in the comment section, not that one, this one. Goodness gracious. Is there anything he can do with his body to combat without losing certain effectiveness on the court? And I truly believe this, Ryan. I don't think that is I just don't think that somebody that big, 7'1", with that athleticism, I think it's just really, people don't understand the amount of force that he puts on the court when he plays. And so I just think that that's something that he just has to deal with, because I don't think it's hard to imagine someone that big moving that well. And, your body just sometimes it just struggles to get through it. But to your point, Ryan, do you know Jokic this playoff run, just rounding up, 28, 14, and 8 so far. 28, 14, and 8 so far through the playoff run.
You want to know what's something funny? That's just Joker's regular season stats last year.
Yes, that's actually true.
Which is nuts. He did that for an entire 82 game season. And people found ways to try to discredit that as like, oh man, just because he was a 6 seed, like it doesn't matter. But like he was freaking dominant then too. But him to do that in the playoffs in a pressure cook situation where you're facing off against Rudy Gobert and DeAndre Ayton and potentially Draymond Green or Anthony Davis or one of those guys, and then just going to have to see how it goes from there. But it has been an incredible run for Jokic so far, and I hope that he continues to ride this wave, because this has, like, people talk about Tim Duncan in 2003. They talk about Shaq in 2000. They talk about some of these historic big man runs through the playoffs. This could be one of those too. Dirk in 2011. Like they talk about all of these, and there is potential for Jokic to maybe not exceed some of those, but at least match them.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're going too low for me. This is more like the 91 Michael Jordan run. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna say that. We can talk about that later.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Real quick before we get out of here, what's the best way the Nuggets can win Game 3 in your eyes?
Well, I don't know if you heard Joker. Well, of course you heard Joker earlier when they asked him. What about what do you need to do? Like the Suns are going to come out this and that. And he was like, oh yeah, no, they should just lay down and just give us the victory or whatever, and surrender. Look, the Nuggets are confident. Like they feel good. And it's not an arrogance. I think the Nuggets they're finally healthy. They're finally able to put it to the test. And respectfully, they think the Suns are a good team. They know who KD and Book are, but they are not afraid of them. And they know they're the better team with the best player. So I think it's them playing within themselves, because what's going to happen is the Nuggets are going to do what they do. Everything the Suns are doing, their defensive counters, what they're running on offense, they're reacting to the Denver Nuggets. So they're constantly on their heels throughout the entire game. The Nuggets have set the floor, they've set the pace, and they've set the standard. All the Nuggets have to do is do what they want to do. And everything, I think, works for them. And I do think the Nuggets are going to get another win in Game 3. And I think this is not an arrogance thing. It's just the Nuggets feel like the best team in the playoffs right now. And they feel like they're the team that knows they have the most to prove as well.
And when those two things come together, I think it's a very special thing that happens, where you've got all of these opportunities to prove yourself in previous years. And if you fall short in those times, or if you miss the boat in some of those times, then it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I think the Nuggets, they've had plenty of that. They've had those growing pains. They know what it's like to miss out, and they're not going to feel that again if they can choose it. So they have an opportunity to dictate their own fate this time around, and to dictate their own fate. And I think they've got a great chance to come out of this on top in Game 3. If Joker plays the way that he played in Game 2, then I think that's a great start. Murray is going to have to respond. He'll be better than when he was in Game 2. Whether he's elite in Game 3 or not, that remains to be seen. Would be nice to get Michael Porter Jr. going as well. Getting him some early touches, early shot opportunities would be great. But also, Denver's got to make it easier on themselves. And the best way they can do it is to defend, rebound, run. And that's just the formula that they've had for the entire season. It's the easiest way for them to get Michael Porter Jr. going is a transition 3 on the right wing. Like easy stuff.
Yeah. This might not be a Porter series, but only because they don't need Porter as a scorer necessarily. They needed defense, which I don't know if you saw, but he played pretty good defense last game. But again, he wasn't better than Christian and Bruce. But like that block he had on that rotation, again, this is just Porter doing his job. Lord willing, if everybody stays healthy, they get through this series, that next round, Porter, that will be a Porter series because either one of those teams, they're going to need that release valve, and he's going to be there. So I think Porter, this is just the fact that Porter and Gordon are both averaging around 15 points a game, and Porter had basically been on cruise control outside of like 3-4 quarters so far in the playoff. I guarantee you, man, I think Porter is going to have one of these series in the next couple, hopefully. And yeah.
So is he the guy that Devin Booker's going to punch in the face in Game 4, or will that be Bruce Brown or Christian Brown? Like slapping for the ball, like what Joker had happen in 2021.
I don't. Has Porter ever gotten up? Has Porter ever had an issue with anyone other than Zach Collins when he dunked on him? Porter has the most malleable personality. Everybody likes Porter. He doesn't talk to you. The agitators are Bruce because he will talk to you, KCP because he will talk to you and he's physical, and Christian because it doesn't make sense that I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it a band with y'all. Y'all know, y'all come to my channel, you know what time it is. This 6'6" white boy coming out of nowhere off the bench who's a rookie is literally lining up in your face. He's getting in Kevin Durant's deal, getting in Devin Booker's grill, and you can't get by him. Yeah, he's the mark because when –
yeah, that's the guy you punch in the damn face. Like, that's the one. That's the mark right there. And because he's going to be right there. He's going to get in your grill. Like, Kyle Anderson already showed weakness in Game 1 last round.
Right.
Like, there's no doubt. Like, somebody is going to punch Christian Brown in the face, and I can't wait for it to be Devin Booker.
Yeah, I think Devin is looking for – especially, I would say, if the game gets out of control – in Game 3 and they're getting embarrassed, they're down 15 with like 4 minutes left. Oh, yeah, you better believe there's going to be some antics.
Oh, my God. Well, we will just have to see what happens, my man. But this was a good show. This was a good opportunity for everybody, I think, to be primed for Game 3 tomorrow. The wait is almost over, everybody. This has been it's been a not a stressful time, but it's been a good time for Nuggets fans to kind of reflect on just how great things have been over the course of these past couple of weeks. But for everybody in the NBA world, I think they've come to a reckoning that, look, Denver Nuggets for real. Like, this is an opportunity for them to really make their mark in this league. And I think that this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see the way that the Suns actually respond in Game 3 and if that's actually if they're capable of doing it. But any final thoughts, man, before we get out of here?
Wait, did you give a prediction for Game 3?
Oh, I didn't. Nuggets win a heartbreaker for that Phoenix crowd. I think that one of Joker or Jamal will hit a clutch shot that puts them up by 4 right at the end of the game, and people are going to go home pissed because they'll give a great effort. They will come out and they will shoot better. They're going to play better, but I think that Denver will ultimately win Game 3.
I think Denver's going to win Game 3. Jokic's rebounding is incredible right now. Can we get it depends. If they single cover him again and he shoots, I don't think he's going to reach – he might not reach 30 because I think Jamal has a better game. I would say maybe Jokić has like a 27, 28, 20, and 6 line. I think that might be on the table for tomorrow.
Man, that'll be hilarious. Joker, the best thing he does when he is – knowing that a win has to happen is he rebounds the damn ball. So that'll be a great opportunity for him to just get in the way of all of these shots and get in the way of all these rebounds. That'll be a great opportunity. But we will see. I predict Michael Porter breaks out of the slump. That's my biggest thing for tomorrow. But before we go, I forgot to tell everybody we have a watch party May 5th tomorrow for Game 3 at West Rail Tap and Grill, 7:30. Denver Stiffs night out. This is going to be a great opportunity. I will be there. on because I'm not traveling on this particular one, but I will be there for this. So make sure to check out West Rail Tap and Grill on this potential game 3. And hopefully this is a win. Hopefully everybody gets to enjoy it, my guy. But for now, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Everybody, thank you so much for love and support. He is SwipaCam. Everybody, we enjoy doing these. I know this is a weekdays with Swipa edition, but we've had a lot of fun doing these shows together, and I always love it for sure. Like this has been great content, and I know that Swipe is enjoying it too. We got the bops going. This has been a fun time. Everybody hit that like button, please, on the way out. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.